Yo, what's going on, everybody? October 23rd, coming to you from somewhere in this great country of America. I ain't telling you where. And a lot of things I want to talk to you about here in this video. We're going to discuss Antarctica, always interesting there. We're going to talk migrants. We're going to talk Monsanto. We're going to talk clergy sex abuse. We're going to talk George Soros, a lot of different things. But first of all, I want to touch on Q. So it is concerning some people out there that it's going on, 14 days now since we had any drop from Q. And my idea about that, now I don't think Q is done by any means, but I don't think Q is going to post anything until after the midterm elections on November 6th. The reason being is because since Q is posting political information, they don't want to open themselves up to any sort of attack against them or do anything illegal. What I mean by that is that, look at this right here. It's called the Hatch Act of 1939. I saw this, I think, on Twitter this morning. Somebody posted about it, and it confirmed a lot of the ideas in my head and made a lot of sense to me. So the Hatch Act of 1939, as you can see right here, says that it limits certain political activities of federal employees. The law's purpose is to ensure that federal programs are administered in a non-partisan fashion. You see, so if Q were to be posting around the time of all of the midterm election campaigning, that could be used as ammunition against them by the corporate propaganda media, trying to say that what they're doing is illegal and we need to investigate Q, etc., you see? So that's why I don't think Q is going to post anything until after the midterm elections. And not only that, but I'm sure that they want us to be focusing on these midterm elections. They don't want to be taking our attention away from them with things that Q's posting and dropping and researching that. They want all of our attention focused on these midterm elections to make sure that we get the correct people into office, and then we can really hit the ground running after the midterm elections, the rest of 2018 and into 2019. So don't think Q is done. Might be a little bit longer until Q posts again, but don't worry, guys. I think 2018 is still going to be a fantastic year. Don't lose faith. I'm still trusting the plan. Okay, now I want to touch on the Trump rally. So because the midterm elections are coming soon, Donald Trump has been doing 3 or 4 rallies a week. His energy is insane. And his last rally was last night in Houston, Texas. And during the Fox News live YouTube broadcast of his rally, it cut for about 30, 40 seconds to a very interesting video. I'm going to show it right here, this tweet, and I'm going to link this tweet down below if you want to check it out. But look right here. So this is the YouTube live broadcast, and then it cuts to this. It's an Associated Press, basically video, detailing a bridge in China. Stand by for the live China bridge unveiling. So what happened yesterday is that China unveiled the world's longest bridge. It was a $20 billion bridge. It's like 35 miles long. It's a huge, huge bridge. But this is what's peculiar. So, well, first of all, Fox News cutting their live YouTube broadcast to this for, half a minute. That just doesn't happen right there. Definitely something more to this story. If you actually look at Q's posts throughout the months, all the way even back since February 23rd, Q has been posting about a bridge. The bridge. 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 Some of these in different contexts, but when you get up to recent postings about the bridge, for instance, this one on October 28th, it's talking about Dianne Feinstein, her connections to China, and then Q asks, what is the purpose of a bridge? Bridges, connecting people. Bridge, bridges, bridge, bridge. Lots of bridges. So again, during this live YouTube broadcast from Fox News, cuts to this right here. Is that some sort of message sent to China by the White Hats? I would imagine so. Funny enough, in that broadcast as well, this is a small screenshot from it. What does that look like right there to you? And that is just peculiar to me. Does that look like? Does that look like a letter? It might very well. So, yeah. Don't know any more background information behind this, the connections to the bridge or anything else, but I think this definitely was a message sent to bad factions, bad actors in China, and the bad actors in this country working with those bad actors in China. Okay, now let's move on to talking about a bomb that was diffused in George Soros' home. So explosive found near George Soros' New York home. An explosive device was left in the mailbox of a residence in New York owned by billionaire George Soros, and it didn't go off. Police defused the bomb, but basically, oh, and Soros wasn't even home during this. It was just left in the mailbox. But shoot, what we're seeing from the fallout of this is the mainstream media doing a whole lot of ass-kissing to George Soros and throwing shade on everybody who's trying to say anything against him. And seeing that George Soros wasn't even home, dude probably doesn't even check his own mail. This is really weird. It's like he's trying to feign sympathy. Shoot, I wouldn't doubt if George Soros had this explosive planted in his own mailbox just to create this news story and to get a bunch of sympathy for him. You see? See how those mind games work? But it's not going to work. Soros is going to be out very soon. I don't doubt that. Let's touch on now what's going on with child sex abuse being outed. So this was really interesting to me. I was pretty wowed by this. The Australian Prime Minister formally apologized to child sex abuse victims. And what had happened is that he held a speech to the Parliament where before hundreds of survivors, it says here, following the conclusions of a royal commission into institutional responses to child sex abuse. Basically, he was apologizing to a bunch of child sex abuse survivors, even survivors from the Vatican Church, and apologizing on a national level. Very weird, right? Progress forward. And on that same note of child sex abuse being outed, especially from the Vatican, look at this. Washington, D.C. feds are launching a victims hotline in D.C. there for the victims of clergy abuse, and prosecutors are going to review reports for criminal charges. And check this out. The action being done by this is from a chief federal prosecutor in Washington, D.C., Jessie Liu. Jessie Liu, she was appointed by Trump last year in 2017, and looking into some of her history, she's actually been a prosecutor that went against some family members of the Rothschilds before. And she's a white-collar prosecutor. She goes against white-collar crime quite a bit. So all a part of the plan. I'm sure they very purposefully installed her into that position. And she is going along, doing a lot of great work here. And I am sure this is going to lead to a lot of things. If they're getting a hotline in Washington, D.C. for victims of clergy sex abuse to call into that they're going to investigate, it's very good news. And that's just not very long after a Pennsylvania grand jury concluded church leaders for decades protected hundreds of predator priests in multiple states. Lots of stuff coming out about the Vatican. Great news. Now I got a word from a sponsor of this YouTube channel, and that sponsor is Noble Gold Investments. They are a great American family-run business out of Texas. What they do is help you invest your money into gold and silver IRAs. Gold and silver helps get you a much better long-term return on your investments than the volatile stock market does. So you can call them. There'll be a link in the description down below. Go check out Noble Gold to invest your money in precious metals. Okay, now let's touch on those migrants, that migrant caravan that's not so slowly making its way to our southern border. Zero Hedge reported this morning. Migrant declares that Trump is, quote, the Antichrist as the caravan swells to 14,000 people. I think last I heard it was like 7,000. This thing is getting absolutely huge. How the heck is it getting so huge? Not only that, but how the heck is it moving so fast? There's so many unanswered questions about this migrant caravan that I see a lot of people aren't even asking. How do thousands and thousands of people just up and decide to walk 2,000 miles to invade into this particular country? You know, why are they holding flags from their own country if they're trying to come into America? Why am I seeing videos of them literally getting money handouts? Not only that, but I've seen videos of them loading into big buses, basically, big trailer tractors, and being driven up the highway. They're not walking. They only walk. They get out of the trailers as a photo video opportunity for the mainstream media. In the mainstream media reports I've seen, the reporters that are following this caravan, it is pathetic reporting. There's dudes in the back of the reporters during their broadcasts that are like throwing up gang signs and all sorts of this stuff. I mean, it is an invasion. This is definitely worrying me. You know, there's going to be a stand at the Rio Grande if they continue their way. But one thing is that there is a massive hurricane that's set to hit Mexico in the coming days in the path of where this caravan is supposed to be going. So who knows if Mother Nature has a surprise in store for a lot of these migrants. But there's just a lot of bad stuff going on with this. And how the heck are they supposed to walk over 1,000 miles, some 1,000, 1,500 miles, with the midterm elections just 2 weeks away, right? They would literally have to walk at a super brisk pace for 10 to 12 hours a day, every single day to do it. I mean, it's unheard of. And we have families walking with their little kids. At least that's what's claimed by the mainstream media. Again, it's just so many unanswered questions. Very bad news. And it's all a political stunt. I see it as a political stunt. My bet is that George Soros is paying these guys, say these things, get in those trailers, try to cross the border. It's just totally political. You know it is. Now let's touch on Bayer. Bayer and Monsanto. You know, Bayer bought Monsanto in the last year, so they're basically the same massive corrupt corporation right there. Well, I'm sure you've also heard of the lawsuit that was filed against Monsanto by a farmer, and he won. He won this lawsuit, and this lawsuit was about Roundup glyphosate, Monsanto's product, causing his cancer. He had lymphoma. He won the lawsuit. It was nearly a $300 million verdict for this gentleman right here. And massive, massive lawsuit because there has been so much corruption going on that's gone on with Monsanto. Sometimes better termed Satan, because their glyphosate is completely toxic. They're the ones that made Agent Orange that was sprayed everywhere during Vietnam. They do so much corrupt, we could just say attacking of farmers, all kinds of skullduggery going on there. So just terrible, corrupt corporation. And they lost this verdict, so they appealed. They appealed, and then just the other day, they lost the appeal. So this is groundbreaking because it's going to pave the way for so many more lawsuits to start hitting not only Monsanto and Bayer, but these lawsuits could even start gravitating towards other big ag corporations like Syngenta. It might even move towards some of the governmental organizations like the EPA and the National Institute of Health, because these organizations, these three-letter agencies, they have scientists that have been paid off within them to claim that, oh, this study shows that glyphosate doesn't cause cancer, right? A lot of people think we need the EPA, but God, EPA is so corrupt. We definitely need a redoing of that organization. So this is a monumental lawsuit that could pave the way for a lot more exposing of genetically modified foods, of these big ag corporations. Very good news. And speaking of, you know, pesticides and organic foods and things like that, I saw this article this morning on CNN and some other places. It says, you can cut your cancer risk by eating organic, a new study says. And my first reaction to this was just, duh, right? It's like some people out there literally won't believe anything unless they see some news headline that says, a new study shows, a new study shows. Well, fun fact, I would say the majority of studies out there across the scientific spectrum, whether it's about glyphosate, whether it's about organic, vaccines, fluoride, even physics studies, and all kinds of different things out there. You got to understand how infiltrated science has become, how bureaucratic it is, how much these study makers, statisticians, scientists get paid off to fiddle with the numbers and create a result to appease their corporate masters, right? So, yeah, obviously, not eating toxic pesticides is going to cut your cancer risk. That's all I have to say about that. There's nothing else to talk about there. Cool, so let's touch on the Space Force really quick. White House to press forward with Trump's Space Command. Today, the National Space Council, headed by Vice President Mike Pence, held a meeting, and basically it is full steam ahead with the Space Force. Now, as I continuously say, the Space Force, I think, was a creation for the good guys within the military-industrial complex, to gain access to these black projects, to these secret space programs that are off the books, that are outside of public domain, as Q says, to gain access to them and start disclosing them. So, very good news. I'm all for the Space Force. I think we're going to see a lot of opposition to it because the bad actors within the military-industrial complex don't want their toys disclosed, but it's going to lead to some very big things. Very big things will happen through the Space Force, I believe. And then last thing I want to touch on is good old Antarctica. Did you see this? Mystery of the massive mile wide. They're literally calling it a monolith in these mainstream media reports, which is blowing my mind. NASA spots strange rectangular iceberg in Antarctica. So look at the picture of it right here. Wow, that is like laser precision that the iceberg just happened to break off in this huge rectangular shape. And quite obviously, this just looks, it looks man-made. Was it cut? Is this a test of some new Space Force technology? Joke. But seriously though, it totally looks like it was cut by humans or by some intelligent beings. And what's blowing my mind is they're calling it a monolith. If you don't know what a monolith is usually referred to, a monolith is referred to ancient civilization structures that are in the form of like a rectangular shape. So this is blowing my mind because we've been hearing from certain insiders for a few years now that there is ancient civilization ruins under the Antarctic ice. Flash frozen, kept under the Antarctic ice, kept in secret for many different reasons. But for them to be calling this a monolith, like are they truly seeding the public's consciousness here? Why are they calling it a monolith? And why are they publicizing this rectangular shaped iceberg that is just perfectly smooth, like you can see? I don't know. I don't know if they're seeding the public's consciousness. I don't know if this is some message sent. Who knows? But this definitely intrigued me that they would be posting this about Antarctica and a giant monolith iceberg. So anyway, that's it for this one, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for supporting on Patreon and PayPal and grabbing Spreadshirt shirts and just whatever you're doing, whether it's just sharing these videos, liking, commenting, nice things. I appreciate you all. Make sure you go follow me on Instagram. Make sure you go hit me up on Twitter. Make sure you go hit me up on Facebook. And then lastly, minds.com. Be getting a little bit more active there. And then, of course, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. That's it for this one, guys. I'll be talking to you soon.